Okay, so Anna, tell us a little bit about how you've changed the editorial product to reflect what's happening in the event industry since you've taken command.
Well, we looked at the different types of stories that we do, and we used to focus very much on market by market. And then we realized that it doesn't matter where the reader is, they all want the same information. They want to learn the same thing from this event. What key information can they take away and take back to whatever gala, music festival, conference they're planning? So we, instead of focusing on what's happening in Toronto and what's happening in New York, we started to look at the broader picture and say, okay, well, here's the New York City Wine and Food Festival. What can a planner in Toronto, what can a planner in LA learn from it? And what's the key point we want to tell the reader? Looking at our reader as someone who is two different types. There's definitely the reader who wants to sit there and look at a very long case study and read up about the results and the information and how it was executed. But a lot of times we're finding our readers are strapped for time. So we want to provide them with information that's quick and snappy and digestible. So we produce sort of tip-based things. So we'll take a story and divide it up into 10 main items and say, here's the 10 things you can learn and you can digest them in 5 minutes. I'm editing for the key planner that's in charge of a gala, of a marketing strategy, as well as the CMO, because really that planner has to convince their chief marketing officer to buy into what they have. So we're looking at the broad content as well as the higher level thinking, and that's what we call thought leadership. Interestingly, we find that some of our best and most viewed stories are ones that have a negative twist. What not to do, what guests hate about your event, the do's and don'ts of gift bags. Because I think it's easy for someone to say, well, I did this and it was successful, and people will read it and not necessarily understand what they can learn from it. But if someone turns around and says, well, I did this and it was a failure, then they can say, okay, well, here's how they learned to fix that problem. Here's how they learned to overcome that challenge. And the next time I come up against something like that, I can focus on and learn from what they did. It's a very collaborative process. There's no wrong answer, and we sit in a room and we discuss stories. We discuss them both from the content point of view. Do we think this is going to be interesting to the reader? As well as what's going to play well on Twitter? What's going to look good on Facebook? Is that a great photo, but can we tell a story behind it? So it's always in the mindset of what's the service that we can provide, and not just how can we churn out story after story. Because for us, every story has to have a good amount of views, has to be read by people and be valuable in order for it to be worth us writing about.